It is the middle ground between light and shadow, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
You're just like the rest of us.
The rest of us?
This is, without a doubt, the greatest episode of The Twilight Zone ever made. No, really, the best, period. And it probably ranks with the best television ever made. 5 characters in search of an exit begins in the simplest of all Twilight Zone sets. It's literally just a blank room, surrounded on all sides except for the titular 5 characters. The main character is the Major, an army man and new to the group. The other characters have been there a lot longer. They're a ballerina, a hobo, a bagpiper, and of course, a clown. The entire episode is just them having a conversation, nothing more. Television and to some extent movies were much more influenced by the theater than they are today. You really feel like you're watching a stage production. Even the delivery is very play-like. Yet the episode is so intriguing it never gets boring. The Major, like all the other characters in the group, is an amnesiac.
What's going on here? Where are we? What are we? Who are we?
He has no idea who he is, where he is, or what his life was like before. Everything around them is a featureless cell with no way out, and a black sky with an unexplained light above. The only clue to their predicament is a loud bell that rings every now and again. The Major spins every conclusion he can until he reaches the only conclusion that seems rational. The Twilight Zone never shied away from being philosophical or intellectual. Shows noted today for being a part of the so-called golden age of TV, such as The Sopranos, Mad Men, Dexter, Breaking Bad, Lost, and so forth, they virtually never concern themselves with a subject as heavy or deep as this. Modern dramas like to pat themselves on the back for skillful writing, realistic characters, well-made sets, good cinematography, but for all that, they stay within a relatively mundane sphere. They analyze the acceptable dull world of sex, relationships, family interactions, law, and punishment, with occasional forays into politics. They may treat those subjects in a modern, mature light, but the subjects are essentially those of 50s sitcoms updated for modern audiences. 5 Characters tackles the biggest subjects available, the emptiness of human existence. The characters have an identity, but only as a meaningless career assignment. Being a soldier or a clown is equally worthless. Following your job tells you nothing about who you really are. Their identity is just a signifier of their role. In a very literal, theatrical sense, a role, of their relation to others, not any deeper truth. The Major, who is new to their situation, tries desperately to piece together something. He's a man of action and works hard to find a way out of their pit. Through a lot of artful persuasion, the Major eventually convinces the rest of the characters that they should try to stand on one another's shoulders and use a rope to try to hook on the edge of the pit that they're in, and then try to get out and see where they are or what place this is. So after a lot of struggle and trouble, they manage to do this and see what actually is on the other side. But in the words of Dr. Zaius, a character from the Planet of the Apes, a movie written by Rod Serling, the creator of The Twilight Zone,
"Don't look for it, Taylor. You may not like what you find."
Major, where are we?
The work is closely related to one of the most famous pieces of existentialist literature, No Exit, a play written by Jean-Paul Sartre in 1944. The play also features characters doomed to spend eternity together in a room in what is essentially hell. There's no overt torture, no flames, no demons, just the presence of other people. But 5 Characters goes farther than that. In No Exit, the damned souls have some eventual realization of their positions, their sins, and their punishment. In No Exit, hell is other people, but only because interaction with others can bring us recognition and meaning. Even if that means we deserve punishment, we recognize that we did something sinful. Not so in the darkest part of the Twilight Zone. The characters begin in darkness and end in darkness. The story relates true horror as it's rarely been shown on TV or anywhere before. It goes far beyond the sophomoric idiocy of fearing for your life or suffering physical pain. Real horror, whether it's Lovecraft or Heidegger, is about recognizing how vacuous your own life is and the impossibility of meaning being anything other than how other beings interpret you as an object in their existence. You can fill the role, the profession, the job you or others have chosen, but it won't give you meaning or purpose, really. They can perhaps give subjective meaning to their lives or live out their given roles, and maybe the endless search for meaning in a meaningless world is enough for them, but there's no hope for our characters. They struggle to understand the empty, bizarre box they've been thrown in, but the real truth is more terrifying than they can imagine. Revelation is identical to ignorance in this world. Even today, these subjects are extremely difficult or impossible to get on TV. 50 years ago, the Twilight Zone tackled the toughest of subjects, and it remains as terrifying today as it was then. It's the best the show had to offer, and it can be watched over and over again. The Twilight Zone had a lot of great twist endings, but this one is the only genuinely horrifying one. When the Major learns the truth of his existence, we all have to, in some way or another, acknowledge that we have learned a little bit about the truth of our own existence. And it's that we're all living in some sort of Twilight Zone, and it's probably of our own making.
I found this in the snow. Someone must have dropped it.
Oh, thank you, dear. And just drop that in the barrel over there, will you?
A clown, a tramp, a bagpipe player, a ballet dancer, and a major. Tonight's cast of players in the odd stage, known as the Twilight Zone.
We are dead, and this is hell.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.